The cursor hovered over my personal server profile for exactly 3 seconds before he clicked delete. Gavin Croft did not even look at me when he did it, just kept that smug grin plastered across his face while the confirmation dialogue flashed on his screen. "You do not own this code," the new manager sneered, deleting my personal server profile to prove his dominance. I smiled and packed my bags. The whole database erased itself. Before anyone could process what was happening, I was already standing, my messenger bag over my shoulder, walking toward the exit like I had just finished a regular Tuesday. Behind me, chaos erupted. Voices overlapping, phones ringing, someone yelling about backup protocols. Gavin sat frozen at his desk, his mouse clicking frantically at a screen that showed nothing but an error message in brutal red text. I did not look back. My name is Harvey Sinclair. I am 58 years old. For 15 years, I served as the senior systems architect at Aegis Healthcare Systems, a mid-sized tech firm in Portland that specialized in database management for healthcare providers. 15 years of late nights, weekend calls, and building something from the ground up that actually worked. My roots were not in Silicon Valley mansions or legacy tech money. I grew up in a split-level ranch in Beaverton, where my dad fixed cars in the driveway and my mom managed the books for 3 local businesses on a kitchen table covered in receipts and coffee rings. They taught me 2 things: how to solve problems nobody else wanted to touch, and how to remember what it felt like to need someone to give a damn. That second lesson mattered more than people think. Empathy is not a weakness in tech, it is architecture. It is understanding that the code you write at 2 a.m. affects the nurse pulling a patient record at 2 p.m. It is remembering that servers are not just metal boxes. They are infrastructure for human beings trying to do their jobs. Gavin Croft never learned that lesson. Gavin arrived on a Monday in October carrying a titanium briefcase and wearing a suit that cost more than my first car. The executive team introduced him as our new Director of Technology Operations, a title that apparently meant he supervised everything I had built without understanding any of it. His resume sparkled. MIT graduate, 3 years at a Bay Area startup that got acquired. 2 years consulting for firms that paid obscene rates for mediocre advice. He had the confidence of someone who had never actually broken anything important enough to learn from. I knew we were in trouble during his first team meeting. "I have reviewed the current infrastructure," Gavin announced, not bothering with pleasantries or introductions. He pulled up a slide deck full of buzzwords and consulting frameworks that had nothing to do with our actual systems. "Frankly, what I am seeing is inefficiency, redundancy, a lack of modern DevOps principles." He said DevOps principles like it was a magic spell. Hank Miller, one of our senior developers, raised his hand. "The current architecture has 99.97% uptime over 5 years. The redundancy is intentional. Healthcare data cannot go down." Gavin's smile did not reach his eyes. "Uptime is fine, but efficiency matters more. We need to streamline, cut costs, modernize the stack." I should have said something then, should have pushed back. But 15 years in tech had taught me to pick my battles, and I figured Gavin would crash into reality soon enough on his own. I was right about the crash, wrong about the timeline. The first week, Gavin started scheduling optimization meetings, hour-long sessions where he would talk about cloud migrations and containerization while the rest of us tried not to check our phones. He loved the sound of his own voice, loved throwing around terms like paradigm shift and synergistic integration. The second week, he started making changes, small things at first, adjusting monitoring thresholds without consulting anyone, reassigning tickets based on what he thought was important rather than actual priority. Sending emails at 11 p.m., demanding status updates on projects that were already completed. By week 3, he had started targeting me specifically. It began with a meeting request, infrastructure review Harvey's projects. No agenda, no context, just a calendar invite for 4 p.m. on a Friday. The universal time slot for conversations that were not going to be pleasant. I showed up prepared, brought documentation, performance metrics, incident reports showing our stability. Gavin sat behind his new desk. He had already redecorated the office with minimalist furniture and a standing desk he never actually used. With his laptop angled so I could not see the screen, "Harvey," he started, not bothering with small talk. "I have been digging into the server architecture, and I am concerned about what I am finding." "Concerned how?" He spun his laptop around. On the screen was a directory tree of our server infrastructure with one folder highlighted in yellow, Raw Personal, my personal workspace. Every developer has one, a place for scripts, tools, automation that makes the job easier, but is not officially part of the production environment. Mine was more extensive than most because, well, I had been there longer and built more tools. But it was all documented, all backed up, all approved by the previous director. This, Gavin said, tapping the screen is a security risk. Personal directories on company servers, unaudited code. For all I know, you could be running anything in here. The implication was clear. He thought I was doing something shady. I kept my voice level. That folder contains automation scripts, monitoring tools, and utility programs I have developed over the years. Everything is documented in the wiki. Previous management approved it. Most of those tools are integrated into our daily operations. Integrated how? Database maintenance scripts, automated backup verification, system health monitoring. He held up a hand. I will need a full audit, documentation of everything in that directory, justification for why it needs to exist, and a migration plan for anything production critical. Translation: he wanted me to spend weeks documenting things that already work so he could justify deleting them anyway. I spent the next 2 weeks compiling documentation that Gavin never read. Every email I sent him bounced back with one-line responses. Received under review. We will discuss later. Meanwhile, he was making bigger changes. He fired Clara Jenkins from infrastructure support, 22 years with the company, and replaced her with a contractor who had never worked in healthcare. He canceled our monitoring service subscription to cut costs, then acted surprised when we missed a minor outage because nobody saw the alerts. He pushed a streamlining initiative that mostly involved deleting comments from code because they cluttered the files. The team started losing people. Hank Miller put in his notice, then 2 of the junior developers who had just finished onboarding. I should have left too. My resume could land interviews anywhere. But there was something about abandoning the systems I had built, systems that real people depended on, that felt like leaving a kid in a burning building. So, I stayed, and I documented, and I watched Gavin dismantle 15 years of careful work with the confidence of someone who had never actually had to fix anything. The breaking point came on a Thursday in November. I was in the server room, the actual physical server room, because despite Gavin's cloud obsession, healthcare regulations meant we still maintained on-premise infrastructure. I was running a routine hardware check when the door opened behind me. Gavin walked in, followed by 2 people in dark suits. Harvey, Gavin said, not bothering with introductions. These are auditors from corporate. They are here to review our security compliance. This was news to me. Nobody had mentioned an audit. Gavin claimed he had scheduled it last week and sent an email, but I checked my inbox right there on my phone and found nothing. One of the auditors, a thin man with wireframe glasses, stepped forward. We need access to all server directories, including personal workspaces, to verify compliance with corporate data policies. Gavin was watching me, waiting for a reaction, probably hoping I would panic or refuse. I unlocked my workstation and stepped aside. Everything is documented, I told them. Access logs are clean. You will not find any issues. The audit took 3 hours. They found absolutely nothing because there was nothing to find. Every script was documented, every tool was logged, and every line of code had a clear, legitimate purpose. When they finished, the thin auditor nodded at Gavin. All clear, he said. No violations. Gavin's jaw tightened. He had been hoping for ammunition to use against me. After the auditors left, he cornered me in the hallway. Just because you pass the audit does not mean that personal directory stays, he hissed. It is non-standard. It is a security risk, and I want it gone. I looked him dead in the eye. Those tools are integrated into production. Deleting them will break automated processes. Then document the processes and rebuild them properly in the official repositories under proper version control. He snapped. They already are under version control, and they are already in the documentation, I replied. You would know that if you had read any of the materials I sent you. His face flushed red. I do not appreciate the attitude, Harvey. I am trying to run a professional operation here. So am I said. I have been doing it here for 15 years. Yeah. Well, things change, Gavin sneered. New management means new standards. Either adapt or find somewhere else to work. He walked away before I could respond, leaving me standing in the hallway with my pulse hammering in my ears. I went home that night and updated my resume. But as I sat at my desk, I pulled up my original employment contract from 15 years ago, along with the intellectual property agreements. I knew the law. Under federal copyright law, specifically 17 U.S.C. 106, The software and automation scripts I had written on my own time, prior to my employment or outside my core duties, belonged to me. I had granted Aegis Healthcare Systems a non-exclusive license to use them, but that license required a 30-day written notice before any termination or modification. Gavin's sudden demand was not just bad management, it was a direct violation of my intellectual property rights. But I decided to hold that card close to my chest for now. Before I could even start sending out applications, Gavin made his move. The email came at 6:47 a.m. on a Friday, sent to the entire technology department with executive leadership CC'd. The subject read, Infrastructure Modernization Initiative, effective immediately. The email stated that we were implementing new standards for server management, and all personal directories on company servers would be decommissioned by end of business today. Any tools or scripts currently housed in personal workspaces had to be migrated to official repositories, or they would be permanently deleted. It ended with, compliance is mandatory, no exceptions. Gavin Croft, Director of Technology Operations, he had sent this early in the morning, giving us approximately 10 hours to migrate years of work. My phone started buzzing before I even finished my first cup of coffee. It was Hank Miller. Is he serious? Hank asked over the phone. How do we migrate everything in one day? What happens to the automation? He is trying to force me out, I told Hank. This whole thing is targeted at me. Everyone else barely uses their personal directories. I know, Hank said. So, what are you going to do? I had two choices. I could comply, spend the day frantically migrating tools, probably missing details, and breaking things. Or I could refuse, let him delete it, and watch the infrastructure crumble. Neither option felt right. Then Hank said something that changed everything. You know what is actually in your personal directory, right? Like, everything that is integrated? Of course, I said. Backup verification, health monitoring, automated maintenance. No, I mean the big database reconciliation script, Hank said. The one that runs every night. My stomach dropped. The database reconciliation script. I had written it 8 years ago when we migrated from our legacy database to the current production environment. It checked data integrity between the legacy system and the production database, running silently and perfectly every night for 8 years. It was so reliable that nobody even remembered it existed. The previous director knew, but he retired 4 years ago. The rest of the migration team had left. Gavin does not know about that script, I said slowly. Does anyone? No, Hank replied. I do not think anyone does. What happens if it stops running? I pulled up the code on my laptop. It checked data integrity, flagged discrepancies, and automatically corrected minor issues. Without it, the production and backup databases would slowly desynchronize. Over time, the backup system would become unreliable, eventually useless. If someone deleted the script while it was maintaining active connections to both databases, it would trigger a massive database connection failure. Under federal healthcare laws like the HIPAA security rule, specifically 45 CFR 164.312, any critical integrity check failure requires an immediate system lockdown to prevent patient data corruption. The databases would automatically shut down. The implication hung in the air. I was not planning sabotage, I was planning complete compliance. Gavin wanted the directory deleted. Fine. I would delete it, but I would do it exactly by the book. I spent the morning creating a map of every script and tool in my personal directory. At 2 p.m., Gavin sent a reminder. Personal directory decommission deadline is 5 p.m. today. Administrative deletion will occur for non-compliance. I replied to his email, CCing the executive team. I wrote that I would be removing all contents from my personal directory before the deadline, but noted that several automated processes would need manual migration and restart. I attached a 47-page technical document detailing every dependency. I knew Gavin would never read it. But the paper trail was now established. At 4:30 p.m. on Friday, I started migrating my files. Most of it was straightforward. I copied scripts to the official repository, updated paths, and tested basic functionality. The non-critical tools were migrated cleanly. The system health dashboard, log rotation, and performance optimization scripts were all safe in the new repository. But the database reconciliation script was a different animal. It was not just a standalone file. It had deep dependencies, specific server permissions, and connection protocols that were tied directly to my personal directory structure. Migrating it properly would take hours of reconfiguration and testing, plus coordination with the database team. I had exactly 25 minutes left. At 4:55 p.m., I sent Gavin one final email, CCing the same executive distribution list he had used earlier. I wrote, Gavin, personal directory has been cleared. Most critical functions migrated successfully. The database reconciliation script requires additional configuration time to migrate properly. I recommend scheduling a maintenance window next week to complete the transfer at 4:59 p.m., Gavin replied. The response was 4 words, no extensions, delete now, so I did. I selected my personal directory, raw personal, and hovered my cursor over the delete confirmation button. I took a breath, thinking about 15 years of late nights and weekend calls, and building something that actually kept this company afloat. Then I thought about Gavin's smug face, his expensive suits, and his complete lack of respect for the technical foundation he was supposed to manage. I clicked confirm. My directory vanished. The screen flickered once, barely noticeable, but I saw it. The confirmation message read, directory permanently removed. At 5:03 p.m., Gavin appeared at my desk. He did not knock, just walked up and stood there, arms crossed, radiating a false authority. Personal directory cleared, he demanded. Completely, I said. Good, he said, pulling out his phone. I am running a verification scan now. If I find anything left behind, we are going to have a serious conversation about insubordinations. I just nodded, sliding my laptop into my bag. My messenger bag was already over my shoulder. Gavin frowned. Going somewhere? It is 5 p.m. on a Friday, I said. I am going home. We have the infrastructure review meeting at 5:30, he said. I sent a calendar invite. An hour ago, I replied. For a meeting scheduled after business hours on a Friday, with no agenda, I have plans. His jaw tightened. This is not optional, Harvey. Neither is my time off, I said, standing up. Gavin stepped to the left, trying to block my path. You know what I think, he said, keeping his voice low. I think you have been coasting for years. You built a little kingdom here, made yourself indispensable with your custom tools, and now you are upset that someone is finally holding you accountable. The anger that had been simmering for weeks went cold. You want to know what I think, Gavin? I think you are so desperate to prove you are worth your salary that you cannot tell the difference between optimization and destruction. I think you have never actually built anything that mattered, so you do not understand what it takes to maintain it. And I think, before I could finish, the monitor 3 desks down went dark. The screen flickered twice, then displayed a database connection error in bright white text. Then another monitor went black. Then the desk phone near the conference room started ringing. The overhead fluorescent lights buzzed and flickered. Gavin looked down at his phone. The color drained from his face in under 3 seconds. What the hell, he muttered. My phone buzzed in my hand. It was a text from Hank Miller. Database just went offline. All of it. What did you do? I had not done anything. Technically, I had just deleted my personal directory exactly as instructed. The fact that the directory contained the database reconciliation script, and that forcibly deleting it while it maintained active connections would cause the entire system to crash under security protocols. Well, that was just compliance. Gavin was already running toward the server room. I followed him, bag still over my shoulder, because I wanted to see this play out. The server room was a disaster. Monitors were flashing red error messages in cascading lines. Hank Miller, our database administrator, was typing frantically, sweat dripping down his temple. What happened? Gavin yelled. Hank did not look up. The database reconciliation process crashed hard. It triggered an emergency shutdown to prevent data corruption. I am trying to restart it, but the backup connections are completely dead. How long until it is fixed? Gavin demanded. I do not know, Hank said. I have never seen this happen before. This script has run perfectly for years. I do not understand why it would suddenly... Hank stopped typing. He slowly turned his head to look at me. The realization hit his face like a physical blow. The script, Hank said quietly. The database reconciliation script. It was in your personal directory, wasn't it? I looked at Gavin, whose eyes were wide with rising panic. It ran from my personal directory, I corrected. Past tense. The directory was permanently deleted at 5 p.m., exactly as ordered. Gavin's face turned several colors, shifting from red to pale white, then to a dark purple. His hand started shaking as he pointed a finger at me. You deleted a critical production script, he whispered, his voice trembling. Without authorization, without a migration plan, you just wiped it out. I pulled out my phone, calmly unlocked the screen, and pulled up our email thread. I showed it to him. I sent you 3 separate emails about the database reconciliation script, I said. I explicitly warned you that it needed proper migration time. You replied, and I quote, no extensions, delete now. I did not know it was critical infrastructure, Gavin yelled, grabbing my phone from my hand. He stared at the screen, reading the chain over and over as if hoping the words would change. It was in the documentation I sent you, I replied. Page 17, Section 4, Database Reconciliation and Data Integrity Protocols under HIPAA standards. I cannot read 47 pages of technical documentation in one afternoon, he screamed. Then maybe you should not have given us one afternoon to decommission 15 years of carefully built infrastructure, I said. Hank Miller had stopped typing completely. He sat in his chair, watching the exchange with wide eyes, completely frozen. He knew what this meant. The entire clinic network, covering thousands of patients across Oregon, was completely offline because of a manager's power play. Gavin thrust the phone back into my hand. Fix it, he ordered. Restore the script and get the database back online right now. I cannot, I said. What do you mean you cannot? Gavin sneered. Just undelete it. It is permanently deleted, I explained. The script is gone. Restoring it means rebuilding it from scratch, reconfiguring the database permissions, reestablishing the secure connection protocols, and testing the integrity checks so we do not corrupt patient records. That is a week of work, minimum. We do not have a week, Gavin said, his voice cracking. We have healthcare clients expecting 24/7 access. Then I suggest you contact the backup recovery team and start working on a manual restoration plan, I said, adjusting my bag. You are not leaving, Gavin said, stepping closer. You caused this mess. You are going to stay here and fix it, or you are fired. I actually laughed. It was a genuine, relaxed laugh. Fire me then, I said. But you should know that rebuilding the reconciliation script from scratch requires intimate knowledge of both the legacy database system and the current production environment. I am the only person left at Aegis who understands that architecture. If you fire me, you will be hiring consultants at 3 times my salary to spend 6 months figuring out what I can fix in a few days. Right then, Gavin's phone rang. The screen displayed the name of the Vice President of Technology. Gavin stared at it, his face losing even more color. He answered it, his voice tight. Yes, sir, we are experiencing a temporary technical issue. No, sir, it is not a hardware failure. We are addressing it now. He hung up and looked at me with a mixture of panic and pure hatred. How long to fix it? He asked, through gritted teeth. If I start now, work through the night and all weekend, I can have the production database live in read-only mode by Saturday morning. Full restoration and reconciliation active by Monday. Fine, he said. Fix it. Whatever you need, just get it done. I will need a few things first, I said. In writing, Gavin glared at me. You are in no position to make demands, Harvey. I am establishing terms, I replied. There is a big difference. His phone rang again. He declined the call. What terms? First, I said, a formal written acknowledgement sent to executive leadership stating that this outage was the direct result of your order to delete server directories without proper migration planning. Absolutely not, Gavin snapped. That is career suicide. Then I suggest you get started on calling those consultants, I said, turning toward the door. Wait, Gavin called out, his voice cracking. Fine. What else? Second, I want full restoration of my administrative access to all systems. No restrictions, no oversight. I cannot rebuild a database while handcuffed. Fine, he muttered. What else? Third, I want a written agreement that there will be no retaliation, no write-ups, and no negative performance reviews. Put it in writing, Gavin muttered, rubbing his temples. Fine. And finally, when this database is stable, I want a written recommendation letter from executive leadership, not from you, glowing for my next job. Because the moment this system is secure, I am giving my 2 weeks' notice. Gavin looked at me, completely defeated. He wanted to scream, he wanted to threaten me, but his phone was ringing again, and he could hear the panic of the customer service reps down the hall. Fine, he said, you will have your email. Just fix the database. I took my bag off my shoulder, pulled out my laptop, and set it on the desks. Hank, I said, let us get to work. Gavin left the server room, probably to make phone calls and figure out how to spin this disaster to the board. Hank rolled his chair over to my desk, a grin slowly spreading across his face. That was the most beautiful professional suicide I have ever witnessed, Hank said. Not suicide, I replied, pulling up the legacy system archives. Exit strategy. You really warned him in the documentation? Hank asked. Page 17, Section 4, highlighted and cross-referenced. He never read it. He never reads anything. That is why we are here. Hank was quiet for a moment, watching me pull up the server directories. Can you actually fix it? I can fix it, I said. It is tedious and time-consuming, but the data is not lost. The security shutdown worked exactly as it was supposed to, freezing the databases before corruption could occur. The rest of Friday night was a blur of terminal commands, database queries, and bad coffee from the break room. Hank stayed to help, pulling archived logs and verifying configurations. By midnight, we had stabilized the production database enough to bring it online in read-only mode. It was not a full recovery, but it meant clinics could pull patient records without editing them by 3 a.m. Saturday, I had rebuilt the framework of the reconciliation script. By 6:00 a.m., backup systems were syncing again, and the integrity checks were running. Gavin showed up at 7:00 a.m., looking like he had aged 5 years overnight. He had dark circles under his eyes and his suit was wrinkled. "Dotty?" he asked, his voice flat. "Production databases online in read-only mode," I said without looking up. "Full write access will be restored by Monday morning. The new script is testing now." "Executive leadership wants a full report today," Gavin said. "They will get it Monday when the work is complete," I replied. Gavin opened his mouth to argue, but the fight had completely gone out of him. He looked small, diminished. "I screwed up," he said quietly. "I thought I was modernizing, cutting costs. You were trying to find problems that did not exist to prove your own value," I said. "Instead, you created a disaster that did not need to happen." He did not reply. He just turned and walked out. I never saw him in the office again. By Monday morning, the database was fully operational. The reconciliation script was running perfectly. All systems were back to normal. At 9 a.m., I submitted my formal incident report to the executive team. By 10:00 a.m., I received emails from 3 different vice presidents thanking me for saving the company from a catastrophic lawsuit. By 11 a.m., the written recommendation letter from the board was in my inbox. And at 12 p.m., I submitted my formal resignation. My last 2 weeks at Aegis Healthcare Systems were the most peaceful days I had experienced in years. Gavin was placed on administrative leave pending the investigation, which everyone knew was corporate speak for remote termination. An interim director named Eleanor Gable was brought in. She was in her late 50s, possessed a calm authority, and actually understood technology. The first thing Eleanor did was ask me to document everything I had built. Not to audit it, but to understand it. I spent those 2 weeks training Hank on the reconciliation script and ensuring everything was mapped out. On my last day, the team threw a small party in the break room. Eleanor Gable called me into her office on my way out. "Harvey," she said, "I read the investigation report, including the emails. You knew exactly what would happen when that directory was deleted, didn't you?" I smiled. "I followed direct orders, Eleanor." "Compliance," she said with a laugh. "Well, it was brilliant. Your warnings were clear, and Gavin chose to ignore them." She handed me an envelope containing my final paycheck and a generous bonus for my weekend recovery work. "If you ever want to come back, my door is always open." "I appreciate that, Eleanor," I said, "but it is time for me to move on." 3 months later, I started my own independent consulting firm. 6 months after that, I had more clients than I could handle. 1 year later, I hired my first employee, Hank Miller, who had grown tired of corporate politics and wanted to work somewhere that valued competence over titles. Sometimes, late at night, when I am auditing a new client's database, I will find it. A personal directory full of custom scripts and critical automated tasks that nobody else knows exists. I will send a detailed report. I will explain the risks. I will recommend a proper migration plan. And if they choose to ignore it, well, that is not my problem. I just follow orders exactly as given. If stories like this make your workday a little better, hit that subscribe button. It costs nothing but means the world to us as we push toward 5,000 subscribers. Thanks for listening, and I will see you in the next one.